What in the world are we going to present today? Have you been at that stage or that place? Okay, so we're going to see, I'm going to give you a few tips today, which would probably help that moment where you reach that block, okay? Let's look at you, why don't you come to this one?
Well, I'm like one of those 9 guys who were asking church to come and stand up. Stand up, and the congregation asked, who doesn't listen to his wife? If you can't listen to your wife, sit down. And then the 8 guys went to sit down, and 1 guy stood up there, and then they asked, how do you do it? And he said, my wife said I must come in and stand. So,
your wife said you must come in.
So I've been assigned.
I'm very glad for you. I hope you're going to go back and tell us thing. That's nice. Why did you come? Where are you from? You're from Radio Noord-Holland. Kom as jy.
Ons het meestal 'n ouer luistergroep, sal ek nou maar sê.
Okay.
Mense wat al so baie aankom. En die gebruik die woord baie hier ligtelik, die oude deling van die radio as ek dit so kan sê. Was meer die ouer garde. En ons probeer meer jeugdiges intrek om te luister. So dit gaan vir my daaroor om 'n ou onderhoude en programinhoud oordra waar jy A, die ouer garde nog steeds gelukkig hou, maar B, die jeugdiges kan kry dat hulle begin inkom. That is what they.
So, if you do not understand Afrikaans, let me quickly translate. So, what he basically said is, and I think that's one of the challenges we all are facing. As we've seen, especially in radio, if you look at the stats, everything, there's a big need for the younger generation to be reached. Otherwise, we're going to be extinct in the next few years. So, how are we going to reach the younger generation? What are we going to do that's going to be creative enough for them to actually consider, for instance, whatever your medium might be, to consider Christian media in that medium. Okay, so I'm not going to write everything down. I'm going to just ask this side, why did you come?
So I think our team is good at creating noteworthy content, but I think for me it's about how to get it to the people we want to reach without needing to use an influencer.
Okay. How can you reach people organically? That's a big question. Because I think we all know that you can buy Instagram followers. Yeah. We all know that you can buy YouTube views. We all know that. So how can you actually reach people instead of buying things? Okay. So I've quickly written this down because I think it's important for me to always know in which direction are we going to go with this. Maybe I just want to, before we dive into this, is there any other reason that you really feel strong about why you decided to come to this session? More or less, that's more or less what you guys want to get. Okay.
Sorry.
Yes, okay.
I like the heading because you said creating stand-out content. And there's that saying that goes around that you weren't made to fit in, you made to stand out.
Oh, that's good.
But not to stand out like you're weirdo, but stand out for the
right reasons.
good things.
Yes, inspire people.
Yeah.
To be aspirational. So people want to say, I want to have what she's having.
Yes, that's the same reason I came to Christ. I wanted my peace that my sister had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very good. And there was another that I missed down.
Also to create content that is truthful, relevant, and influences and inspires at the same time, and being able to ask the question without giving too much backlash.
Yes. To actually be able to stand for something. I think that's the biggest thing that I want us to actually walk away with, and I'm going to speak about it a bit later in the talk, is I think one of the big things is we are inclined to be against stuff, because someone rises up and says something and you're like, oh no, that's against the Bible. But what are we for? What are we standing for? And I think that's the biggest question that we actually need to walk out here is, instead of being against stuff, be for stuff. What are we for? Okay, so, yeah.
Hi. Just a quick question around how do we bridge the gap between standing out and being relevant and still being accurate? I think for me, I'm in that middle space of I'm not that young anymore, so I'm not the new generation. Oh, it looks at me. I'm almost 40. So that's why I can say, So, but at the same time, we've got the older generation. So, but how do we find the balance? Because what we found is, for example, a lot of media that big topic going around now in the social media, is sometimes you get too relevant and then you end up doing stuff that's completely unbiblical. So how do we balance that? Because that's going to be very important for the older generation still want to push back, because not all of them, because they're worried about that and it's accurate. But the younger guys want to bring stuff that's fresh and new, but sometimes it's unscriptural.
Yes.
And then you got guys like me in the middle who are like, where do I? So how do we balance that? Because, yeah, we want good content, but we still need it biblically accurate.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the biggest challenge as well, I'm going to get to your question in that talk, is print media. Who's in print media? Is how do you stay relevant in print media? Because I think that's one of the biggest challenges at the moment. We have Benescke from Lig magazine. I don't know if you guys know, it's Afrikaans Christian inspirational magazine. It's beautiful, it's amazing. But if we look at your stats, your subscription, I don't know where it is, if it's going up or it's going down, but you're doing an amazing job. And what they also started doing, for instance, is to look at other mediums. They're not only a print medium anymore, they also have digital presence. And I think that's what we all need to actually start doing, is to not just be so focused on your one thing that you missed opportunities that's right before us. Okay, so yeah.
So I think for me very similar, it's the fact that I'm young, to say, that, and so...
This is your main, this is your guy.
and so I've got an older audience. I think my audience is about 50, now it's about 55 going up.
Yep.
55, between 35 and 45.
Yep.
And so now I'm thinking, how do I go ahead and kind of present content that is Christian, it's biblical, but it's fun and it's exciting and it's fresh. But we're also relevant and we also speak about real issues. But kind of also just holding on and understanding the older generation, you know, me being young myself. So
that's wonderful. That's definitely questions that we're going to get to, because let me explain to you, I'm a mom of two children. I'm a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. And it's extremely important for me to, whenever I do stuff, to get their opinion, because they're very honest. And I think for your generation especially, you want to be real and relevant, but you want to speak the truth.
Yeah.
And you don't want to become like the 35-year-old because that's a mold. You actually want to put something fresh. And we're going to definitely look at that. Okay. So what I'm going to speak about is the first question, and then practical tips. Okay, so I'm a journalist. One of the first things that you are taught when you become a journalist is how to write a news article. And we all know the questions that you have to answer for a news article to be effective. Who, what, where, when, and how. Who, what, where, when, and how. But there's another question that I think is extremely important for everyone that's sitting here. Is the why question. Why are you doing what you are doing? For me, I have my master's degree in journalism, and I regularly, especially in the beginning when I started in Christian media, I regularly got the question, okay, Benescke, fantastic Christian media, so when are you going into the real world? into the real mainstream media? And I realized that people are sometimes referring to us as it's almost like a, this is mainstream, but Christian media is there.
Yes.
And it's in fact not supposed to be like that. Okay, so the reason, what I want to ask is why Christian media? Cool, let's just make it practical, because it's always nice to hear why you are doing. Why are you in Christian media? You are from TWR. Why are you in Christian media?
For me, to provide a platform to reach out to the unreached. Christian is actually what it's a platform.
Yeah, platform. Why are you in Christian media?
Well, it was because the opportunity was presented and I had the skills, and I found that I was quite good at it.
Okay. Let's see on this side. Why are you in Christian media?
There's a calling.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be in media and you're a Christian, it's very hard to be in other media without overstepping your boundaries.
Yeah.
And so if you call to know God and you call to media, it's the obvious choice.
I think the bigger question is actually what we're supposed to ask ourselves is, okay, so why are we created? We are created to know God and to make Him known. If you take away the Christian media, we as persons, people, why are we created? We are created to know God and to make Him known. Doesn't matter which profession you choose. We are created to know God and to make Him known. Okay, so I had the big desire to be an investigative journalist. I never dreamed about being a radio presenter. I had this thing, I'm going to study and then I'm going to be an investigative journalist. And I always joked about it. I used to have the surname Botha. So I would say it's going to be Benescke Botha, BBC News, Baghdad, and then the bomb is going to explode and I'm going to write the story. That was my big thing. And what happened is I was busy with my thesis, with my master's degree, and I heard about the opportunity at Radio Pulpit to be a program coordinator. So I thought maybe I'm going to do that for a little while I'm busy writing my thesis, and then when it's done, then I'm going to special assignment. I've already done my internship there. I'm going to be that investigative. What is that lady's name from God Blanche? I'm going to be a Ruda. But anyway, so I started working at Radio Pulpit, and what I discovered is testimonies. I started hearing people's testimonies, and I actually saw that this miracles happening. Miracles exactly the same as what we read about in the Bible, but no one is documenting it. Why is no one documenting it? We work with brand map a lot. Brand map is almost like they go out and do a lot of research around your brand. And it's very interesting for us because you have to go and see what your consumer behavior is. And we came to the conclusions, at Radio Tygerberg we have quite a lot of women listening. And one of the interesting things is, I don't know how they exactly do it, but this woman group of people, they love shoes. So of course then you can go to the people that's selling shoes, Tacky Town and whatever, and you can get them to advertise on the radio. So it's so important to know who you are communicating to. On the one side for content, on the other side for people that need to bring in the finances. So who's your avatar? Go and write it down. Let's take CCFM. What would your avatar look like? CCFM? Where's the CCFM people? How old would you say is your avatar?
I think our avatar would be between 35 and 45, so that kind of bracket.
Yeah.
So kind of like a me.
Yeah.
Not old. I'm not old. Yeah.
More women or more men?
I would say more women. Okay. Yeah, definitely. I would say married.
Okay.
Definitely, surprisingly enough, I would say a northern suburbs family.
Northern, okay.
Yes, living in the northern suburbs. Both mom and dad work.
Okay.
And they have probably between 2 to 4 kids.
Sure.
Because that's what we find, that there's a lot of 3 children sort of kind of households. And just in terms of their sort of, if you can put in their positions, their job positions, they're in management, both mom and dad. So there's also pressure there, just like Veronica on the screen. So that would kind of be the kind of people that we'd be focusing on. And then in terms of, they'd be grandparents, they'd probably be sort of schooling for both kids or all 3 kids, and more of the affluent area, if I can put it that way. Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Immediately you guys think about CCFM in a different light. Immediately you think about Radio Tygerberg in a different light. And we can go through every single person that's working for a specific organization. The moment you have your avatar, it's much easier to create content that's relevant for your audience. It's so important to know who you are and who's the people that's actually listening. And also, the other thing that's very important is you have to know what is Veronica's wants, her needs, her concerns, the questions, her pain points, because that's actually when you can move people, when you can influence people. So you have to know who they are. You have to inform them, entertain them, and get them to engage. So now, for instance, if you take something well, in this case, she will be liking it if we do something on dating. That person might not necessarily like something on dating. So it's important to know who you are speaking to. Okay. So the second thing is the what. what feeling will people get when they think about your brand? Let's take Ligtydskrift. What feeling will people get when they think about, what feeling do you want people to get?
Firstly, I just want to say that the print is very different to the online avatar, I think. But
see, that's very important.
You see, it's
extremely important
to figure out the online part.
To know what you also said. It's important to know when you have a listener that might be a bit older, your online consumer might be a bit younger, so then you will have two avatars.
Exactly.
It might be a mother and a daughter, or it might be two friends or whatever, but it's important to actually not just take one and think, okay, now we're taking this person to the digital world as well.
But the theme is inspirational or hopeful.
Hopeful.
Yes.
Okay. Where are you from?
I'm working in sports ministry, so largely with sports people. So,
what feeling would people get when they think about?
So if they were listening to one of our podcasts through the power of story and testimony, we want sports people, largely aged 18 to 35, to find inspiration, hope, and connection with the critical issues they face in their life.
Because that's so important to know the feeling. Because sometimes we as creative content providers, we create, but we don't think about what we actually want people to experience when they are on the other side, getting whatever you created. I thought about these few well-known brands. Why would people go to Wimpy and Spur in South Africa? Why? Exactly. Really, it's not the best food in the world, honestly. But my children, if I give them the opportunity to go anywhere in the world, because it's a feeling that what are they doing? It's family. It's welcome. You can spill the milkshake. It's okay. Okay, here's the other thing. Why would people drink Coke? What do you think about when you think about Coke?
Quench your thirst.
Quench your thirst. Look at this. I want to show you this ad quickly. It's I think it's one of the latest ads from Coke. What do you feel when you are you feeling like Coke now? See, the thing is, they capture the imagination. They bring in modern things that haven't been displayed in advertisements, and it's talked about. You're going to think about this. Somewhere throughout the day, you're going to think about this. Because they've taken a normal advert and they've created something that inspires the imagination. think about Starbucks. Who of you likes coffee? Who you like Starbucks? Why would you actually not? Younger people would love Starbucks.
Yes, I love it.
Okay, let's go to another one. Why would you actually, who likes to jog? Yes, good. Mr. Sport? I'm not like an avid jogger. I'm not like every single day a jogger, but I really love to jog. Okay. But there's only one brand that I would wear. Because it makes me feel as if I'm running faster when I wear it. Honestly.
It's gotta be Nike.
It is. Because when I wear Nike, I tell you, I feel that I'm running a bit faster. All the others might be better, but it feels to me that I'm running faster. Okay. So yes, one of my likes.
In a city of dreams, sometimes being present can seem nearly impossible. The early mornings offer up rare stillness, a chance to refresh and prepare for the task that lies ahead. Don't be distracted by expectations. Life often swings back when you least expect it. Don't burden yourself with past failures. Learn from them, anticipate them, and always counter. If life is a fight, we can either spend it letting the past beat us down, or we can spend it swinging back. History will teach us. Our future will inspire us. The present is where things get done. In a world where you get what you give, dreaming is just the easy part. Every day, there's a choice. Either wait for tomorrow, start a new chapter, or fight as if today is our last. Because when you have the presence of mind, there is no tomorrow. There is no yesterday. There is only right now. We don't know what tomorrow will bring us, or where it will take us. So today, leave nothing to chance.
Who's gonna jog? You know what the story is behind Let's Do It? Do you know the story? It's quite interesting. Someone actually told me yesterday. When they released the Let's Just Do It. So the question is, what are people feeling when they think about your brand? It's so important to make sure that what you think they are feeling and what they are actually feeling is the same thing. Because sometimes we might think, oh, they love it, it's so nice. Meantime, they scroll, oh, they keep it on me. So it's so important to actually do research, to go and check your Google Analytics to make sure that what you want to put out there is what people that are consumers actually experience when they look at your stuff. Okay. So the next thing that I want to get to is the when. And this is quite important. This is a very important thing for me. It's extremely important. This is one thing that I pray about probably the most when it's creating content. It's not when, meaning Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 9 or at 5. Not that. What are the times that we are living in? I think it's extremely important that we know the times that we are living in. And why am I saying this? Is there's 3 scriptures that I want to share with you. And it actually goes a lot with what the speakers this morning also spoke about. is the first thing is in 1 Chronicles 12, verse 32, it says the following: From the tribe of Issachar, there were 200 leaders of the tribe with their relatives. All these men understood the signs of the times and knew the best course for Israel to take. Okay, so what is this? The thing is, we need to know what God's heart is for a time such as this. It doesn't help we want to be relevant and cool and just put stuff out there and get 100 followers, extra, whatever. It doesn't help. We need to understand what is God's heart for a time such as this. What does He want us to communicate in a time such as this? Because at the end of the day, we are created to create, to make known the Creator. We are created to create, to make known the Creator. Okay? So the second thing is, and this is where we are now, woe to those who drag their sins behind them like a bollock on a rope. They say what is right is wrong, and what is wrong is right. That black is white and white is black. Bitter is sweet and sweet is bitter. And then also in 2 Timothy, and this is the most important thing, I think one of you guys mentioned it, Donna, when I asked what your expectations is it says the following: it says, for the time will come when people will not put up with sound doctrine. Instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather around them a great number of teachers who say what their itching ears want to hear. So we need to know what times we are living in, guys. We need to know, because as you can see, we all see it around us. What is black is white and what is white is black. What is wrong is right and what is right is wrong. You can't go and say I'm a woman or I'm a man. You can't do certain things anymore. Where did that come in? And that's why I'm saying it's extremely important to know what are we standing for. We're not standing against that, because that's the agenda that they're going to push. What that lady this morning said, it's going to be their agenda. What is our agenda? We are pushing for Psalm 139 that says, God knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. He planned out your days. He has more thoughts about you than what there are grains of sand in the world. That's the stuff that we need to be standing up for. That's the truth that we need to come and put there again. Because you know what is most important or the most dangerous thing in the world? It's not really wrong doctrine. Because you can easily say, yeah, who dies nonsense. You know what's the most dangerous thing is the thing that's just a little bit off. Just a little bit off. Just a little bit. And the problem is we don't read the word, we don't know the truth. Because we don't know the truth, it's so easy to be just swayed. I think books like Dan Brown, sometimes it makes me feel like that. It's so close to the truth. For you that don't know the truth, you'll say, oh, that's so nice. It's not nice. It's not the truth. So it's important to know what the truth is. So I think this is the screenshot that you need to take and go and pray about. Before we create stuff, we need to make sure that it's the truth and in love. But the truth will always set people free. Because the truth is Jesus. He's the way, the truth, and the life. So if we get back to that, if we get back to a place where we ask God, what is it that you have that we need to put out in the world now? This morning, when we spoke about the guides speech thing, that is actually extremely important for us to push that our listeners and our readers and whatever go and sign that petition. Because otherwise it's going to be extremely difficult for us to put the truth out there. What is the truth? The truth is what God says in His Word. His Word is still true. So it's important for us to know the signs and to know the times that we are living in. So now I'm going to play a video from Starbucks. I'm sorry guys, this is going to be a bit upsetting maybe, but I want to show you this video because it actually won a prize. It won a prize in 2019, and it won a prize for a certain reason. Here it comes. I'm sorry about this, but I want you to see the truth.
Gemma? Gemma, please come to room 4. Hello?
Hello, am I talking to Gemma?
Kau juga ke pajama?
Juga.
And what's your name?
It's James.
James?
So I'm not judging, like seriously I'm not, but I want us to quickly speak about this because this is controversial. I know this is controversial. Because you know what happens, né? It's very easy to speak about stuff like this, you know, gender and male and female and straight and it's very easy to speak about it when you don't have someone close to you.
Yep.
But now it becomes like your friend, it becomes a family member. And I've seen people change their truth. I've seen people compromise. And that's why truth and love always needs to be together. But you can't compromise on the truth because it's uncomfortable for you. It's important for us to know what God's word says and to always put that down. Not to offend people, but to give people guidance because people need guidance. We live in a world where people need guidance. You want to comment on this? Say any comments on this? Because remember, it's extremely difficult if it's someone very close to you to still stand up for the truth and to not compromise.
I just wanted to say thank you to you for pointing out Psalm 139 and the importance of identity because every name's a story and like I feel like the gospel is the ultimate example of how we are deeply known and rooted in the love of Christ. And if we can communicate that to a secular world in a way that like is stripped free of the usual kind of trappings of religion, it's the most compelling story ever. So even this, like what to name, that's important for us as believers to ask other people. So I just, yes, this is an example of what we're seeing happen around us, but it's not something to kind of shirk away from in terms of like storytelling techniques and what you said as well, like know what you stand for. To me, that's so important because it's a powerful truth. There's no need to slander what we don't stand for and what we're against. It's like this is what. So I just wanted to say thank you, and this is a beautiful story and illustration of the power of that. So.
And you know what? That's actually why I'm glad you're saying this because that's exactly what I thought when I saw it. I don't want to ever make anyone feel less than. That's not my heart, and it will never be because that's also not God's heart. But I think we need to actually, for people that might find themselves in the same situation as this Gemma in the story, what are we going to communicate to that person that's going to actually empower them and inspire them and make them feel worthy and help them to actually find their path? Because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And I think the biggest problem is that people don't know what the path is. They are looking for the path. They don't have purpose. They can't find the purpose. And we as Christian media, that's the main thing that we need to do is we need to help them find Jesus. We need to let them find their way and their truth and life. Because that's going to change lives. Yes.
Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. But he's also, he's the name above all names. He's in him, everything holds together. All those truths that we have from Scripture. But that means that if he's the truth and we get to tell the truth, that means that we should be able to do it more beautifully than the world can tell their lives. Because Jesus is truth and Jesus is beautiful. So we should be able to communicate him in a way that is more revealing than that.
Exactly. Because you know what the crazy thing is, my heart goes out to every single person that feels like a Gemma. Every single person. Because all I want to do is just point them to see that God's word is the light for your path. And it's going to change your whole life. If you truly experience that truth, yes.
I think for me, from a purely marketing point of view, this is an absolutely brilliant advert. Agree with the story or not, because it takes an entire brand and makes it about someone's personal story. And I think that's important because I think if you tied up John chapter 4, Jesus, the woman at the well, he took an entire thing and made it about her person. And I think in terms of standout marketing or whatever the terminology, it takes this one story of this individual, which is irrelevant in this time of conversation. Every major secular brand out there is on the same train at the moment. But it takes this entire business, this entire global industry, and it just makes it about Gemma or James. And the fact that when you come into Starbucks, you're gonna feel like you're important as an individual. And I think that's the one thing for us to learn from a branding perspective, to make it each individual to feel.
And what are they feeling when they go into your kind of thing? You know, that's why it's so important. That's why the feeling is so important. What are we communicating?
We accept it and love.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
really.
just agreeing what Amrata has said, but in this case, with this brand has made their position very clear.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes because it's good to start with the question.
It's going to become more and more unpopular for us to do what we are doing. And that's why we need to know that we are called from God, and we need to know what the calling is for a season, and we need to hear when God is speaking to us. So, yeah.
That's good. When I look at this ad, there's a saying that I've had for years, and I've used it in different situations. I'm somebody that's known that has a lot of, or I back the fact in life of respect for other people, and loyalty is very important to me and all that. And I've got this saying, and I think it fits in so nicely with this story. For a Gemma or a James, the only person that I owe my loyalty to is the one that never made me question theirs. And I think that's really, I mean, I have that tattooed out on my fingers as well: love, loyalty, honor, and respect. That's 4 things in my life that I live by, absolutely live by. And I think that's got significance in the story. You know, is that where do they place their loyalty? Where does Gemma place her loyalty? Where? To the person who's never made her doubt theirs.
That is so true. Please just quickly give you a chance to say something here.
Okay. I think the most important part here is that I think if we are looking at the video, the generation that we are seeing now, the now generation, the younger generation. If we look at Gemma, let's look at the age of Gemma really quickly. It's so relevant because that is actually the age that is pushing the entire agenda that you have spoken about when it comes to the whole identity conversation. And so therefore, I mean, great video once again coming in terms of marketing, because I think it's brilliant. But I do understand that also that coming from a Christian point of view, I think many a times it's easy, very easy for us to say, you know, let's stand upon what we believe in and let's do all of these great things. But then at the end of the day, because of the current society that we are now living in, and so many things that's popping up, I think so many of us are scared of being cancelled. Number one, and number two, I think we fear the fact that people are actually going to tell us no, but you need to be more accepting towards the world and towards the environment. Yeah, literally, and so I think that becomes the situation, which I suppose then comes back to the standpoint, which is you know, kind of know why we are here and what the duty is.
That's why, and I keep on coming back to the same thing. Okay? We need the Holy Spirit more than ever. And we must look at what is the Holy Spirit, what did Jesus give us the Holy Spirit when we wait? Because it's going to be our guidance, it's going to comfort us, and I think in times that we are moving in, it's going to help us to serve. And I think that's why I'm going to come back to it over and over and over. We need to know what is God telling you. Because even though it might feel offensive, if we are doing it in love to the best that we can, but we are putting down the truth, what we stand for, it must be pure doctrine, not to offend or hurt other people, but to put down the truth, God can use it. You can use it to actually set people free. Then it doesn't matter if there's 100 unfollows. If you are 100% sure, but then you must be 100% sure that God actually guided us to do this. Because it mustn't be to just create cool content or just be controversial or just be this or just be that. We need to know, and that's why it's so important for us. And we need to go back to the word. We need to know the word. We need to, there's no way we can just, ach ja, ek het dit laas gelees, like last year we did the course. You can't do that anymore. If you want to have content, creative content that's going to change people's lives, we need to make sure that whatever we put out there is Holy Spirit guided. I think so. So you have to say.
Yeah, no, I think you touched on a lot of what I wanted to mention, but I would love to respond to this video, to this content, saying, hashtag God knows your name.
Oh, what would that be?
That's the question they're putting out there, and we're going to give the answer.
Oh, that's amazing. Because that's the thing. You know what? And to be, we need to know what people are talking about around the fire. We need to know. If people are watching, there's a new series that came out, Desperate Housewives, but in Afrikaans, the Wijnlander. See, this is coming. That's like one of the stuff in Afrikaans community. It's almost like reading the huisgenoot. Like, ooh, nee, ek sal nooit, never read the huisgenoot, read Skelly. It's the same thing for that. We need to know, in my kind of thing, we need to know what are people talking about. In your culture, we need to know what people are talking about. Yes.
That's interesting what you are saying now, because most of the time we speak about relevancy, but we don't break it down.
Yes.
We don't break it down.
Yes.
Because of what you just said now, it's sometimes we can't differentiate between the public interest and the interest of the public. And now we can't even resonate and being relatable.
Yeah.
So we just keep on giving, and we don't listen where it has fallen. So the common word that we use mostly in content is relevance.
Yeah.
But we don't break it down.
Yeah.
So it ends up being a cupid thing most of the time. And you think we resonate, but we don't even resonate. So I'm happy that you say we need to know.
Yeah.
So that we can differentiate between the interest of the public and the public interest.
Public interest. That is so important that you guys hear that. We need to know what are people talking about. And for instance, we all know load shedding. Like I was actually laughing earlier, we were standing here and the lights went off and we just continued talking as if there's nothing wrong. Because we now think about load shedding, That's become so part of our lives. But we need to know that when there's load shedding in some areas, in the Cape Peninsula, it is extremely, extremely dangerous for women. We need to know, if we speak to that group of people, what are we going to do? What are we going to tell them? How are we going to equip them to handle that kind of situations? For instance, if that is part of your Veronica, or whatever your avatar is, we need to know to be relevant, because that's going to equip people, that's going to help them, that's going to inspire them. If there's, for instance, suddenly a war coming to South Africa, people are going to be fearful. Like COVID, think about COVID. We need to know what people are feeling. That's a very general thing, but in your area that you are broadcasting, there might be, I don't know, for instance, for you, maybe the drought might be a problem, or whatever. You need to know what people are concerned about. What are they fearful about? What are they happy about? The World Cup, we've just won the World Cup. Be creative, get nice interviews with relevant people. We need to be relevant, and everything that happens, you can find a newsworthy angle that's inspirational, that actually shows that you know what's going on. We need to be in touch with what our people are feeling. Yes.
I think that is what actually makes it hard, especially when you are doing putting out certain posts on social media, where we are trying to be relevant and we're trying to bring a Christian perspective at the same time, whereas the world is just trying to be relevant.
Yeah.
So it's hard when you're trying to merge the two, and it's trying not to blur those lines where you are stepping just a little bit into being too relevant.
Yeah.
And like I said, getting pushback and then getting questions. It's the same like when we talk about every name's a story and hashtag God knows your name. And then I think of certain religions where names are important, where if people convert to Muslim, your name is important.
Yeah.
But from a Christian perspective, if you're going out there and you become a preacher but your name is Abdurrahman, to us that tells a story, but your name isn't important, but your story behind the name is what's important. So the fact that you came up with something as simple as God knows your name is super cool, But we don't always have, from my perspective, those brilliant ideas sitting behind and trying to figure out how can I be relevant.
Okay, but can I just say something on that? Is I think one of the most cringy things in the world is when we try to bring Christianity into something that's actually not supposed to be. Yeah. Like, seriously, we actually watched a video this week. I'm actually very sad that I didn't put it in the presentation. Of people that took like a worldly song and they took like Christian music. This cringy, it's terrible. Please don't do that. Like for instance, if you give, sometimes you don't have to quote, like John 3:16. You don't have to put that words to be relevant.
Yeah, basically, if I'm watching a football match, I am not going to over spiritualize the goal. Although I do want to say that God is present and God has given that talent and it is to be enjoyed and treasured for His glory, but I'm just over spiritualized.
That's the thing. Sometimes you don't have to say.
Do you pray for your team to win because God wants
No.
you to win?
Oh my goodness.
No. Come and talk to me about that afterwards.
See, that's the thing. I think we have to be real people in the real world. I think nowadays people want to be, they want vulnerability, they want realness, they want authenticity. And the thing that really puts me off, like completely, I would unfollow you. If I see that you cringe, like you put that stuff, you try to make it spiritual. Spiritual when it's not. Because it's okay to actually put 5 steps how to survive load shedding without saying, Jesus is the light. That's right. And people would share it because they would see your logo. You don't have to say something there. So we must just be like real people in the real world. We want people to actually follow our channels. Okay, let's go to the next thing. So truth is under fire, but here's the most important thing as well. And that's why I'm saying that, is that all that is written in the Holy Writings comes from the Spirit of God. The Holy Writings are good for these things. To teach people, to show them when they are wrong, to make them see what is right, to teach them to do what is right. In this way, a person who belongs to God has all that he needs. Okay, so we have all that we need to create fantastic, wonderful content. We just need to trust the Holy Spirit more. Because it's the Holy Spirit that actually allows us to be directed in a certain way. Last year, I don't have the video here, but I'm going to just share the story. Last year, what happened is, just before Christmas, it was in November, we spoke about, what is the time now? You need to
What time?
Okay, still have time.
33 minutes.
Okay. So last year, in November, we as a team, we sat down and we said, you know what? We need something for Christmas. And we actually want to do something, especially for people that might find themselves in a lonely place. And I said, and I can remember, I said at the meeting, I said, yo, let's do something like, maybe a music video, maybe like but I mean the music video is so like, you first need the song, then you need the concept, then it's like so far off, Okay, laat ek eers kyk hier, And when I read it, it was actually unbelievable how I could sense the Holy Spirit's anointing on this thing, Because it was extremely good. And she's not really a songwriter. And she, what the other thing is, she said to me, you know what, I want us actually to do it like this, and she explained to me the whole thing, exactly how it should be. And Janeska went, she's very good with the video stuff, and she actually went to write down the concept that the lady came about. And we shot it, the song was actually recorded by someone professional, and we recorded the music video, and it is so touching. Every single time that I watch it, I actually want to cry because I think it's just amazing. The song's name is God of Never Alone. I was actually, I'll see if I can find it again, I'll play it here then. But anyway, so that's what God can do. That's what I'm saying, is we need to actually trust God for more. Because sometimes we just think, we just gotta, it's again Easter, we need to post something. What are we going to post now for Easter? Instead of actually saying, God, what is it that you want us to do this year? That's going to impact people, that's going to go viral, that's going to, those people that would never come into the church, that would actually make them think differently about you. I think that's what we need to start doing. So actually take that step and remember that in this way, a person who belongs to God has all that they need. Alright. So, where are we reaching? I'm going to quickly go through this. We can't do only one medium anymore because this is social media. Think about this. 95% of the world's population is on social media. They've broken up like this so you can see more or less where everything is. 41% in Southern Africa. That's quite a big thing there. Look at that, that's actually not as much, but then we are on par with the rest of the world. So we need to look at how we're going to impact people, how we're going to influence people. This is quite shocking for me. The next generation, this is stats that they recently released. 8 to 11 years, young children, my children falls into this. 66% have their own tablets, 49% their own smartphone to go online. And I think this is what we need to think about. Remember, the next generation that's coming through, you mentioned, how old are you?
Yeah.
Very young. Yeah, how old are you?
24.
Okay, it's 24. So you grew up with a smartphone or with tablets and whatever. Did you grow up with that?
I wish I did. I grew up with very strict poster parents. So. Not where I come from. But in that era.
Next generation.
Yeah, in that era.
But I mean, this is very important to actually think about, because the next generation is going to be with us so quickly.
Yeah.
And you know, my favorite story that I tell Benescke the whole time is, I read recently about a man who was in his 80s and he was really planting mango trees. Now, I don't know if who of you know that it takes quite long for mango trees to actually have mangoes. So if someone walked past him and said, listen, why are you planting mango trees? Because they knew that the possibility for him to actually eat the mangoes is very slim. And he said, but I'm not planting it for me, I'm actually planting it for my children and my grandchildren. And the thing is, we need to plant mango trees. Every single generation, every single organization needs to have people that they are raising up. We need to plant mango trees. So who are you planting a mango tree for? Yes.
Sorry, I really just wanted to mention this very quickly. That seeing that you are speaking about the social media side of things,
yeah.
And these ages are so relevant because at the moment, TikTok is one of the biggest platforms in terms of social media. And the content is not filtered on TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's scary, the type of content that's on the social media platform, because you've got at minimum 8-year-olds that are on TikTok and that are exposed to so many things happening online. And the content that is being shared and the algorithms that is being pushed. And so if your son, daughter, whoever, if they have any smartphone and they are on TikTok, I mean, most of the TikToks you see the kids following people and making videos and posting themselves on social media. And so this statistic in its greater scheme is actually scarier if you are kind of really going into what things are looking like on social media.
So we need to, what is our role? Most of us, we have a role to actually equip the parents. Because a lot of parents don't know what is actually on TikTok. They don't even know what TikTok is. But they're giving the SIM phone or the cell phone, whatever, to their child. So we have a responsibility to educate the parents.
Yes.
That's why I actually showed you this. Okay, and remember, we also have to think about this. Then. So the children get exposed to that, but we want to get them to read this. Like honestly, my children would look at this and they would say like, no, but I don't like the picture so much. and that's what we need to think about that. That's for children, but it's the same thing for adults. You know, like our children, my children love watching America's Got Talent. Okay. So the other night we went to Bethel, and Bethel was amazing. Who went to Bethel? It was amazing, eh? Did you enjoy it? Anyway, so we went to Bethel Music, and my child said, but when are they starting to do the show? Because they thought it's going to be light, thunder, and America's Got Talent. But anyway, but I realized, you know what, it's the same thing for us. You know, people are watching series on Netflix. So if we want to put content out there, we don't need to conform, we need to bring the truth and everything, but we need to know that our standard needs to be a bit higher. Okay. Okay, so let me get to how that's the most important thing why you probably are here. We are created to create so the world will see the creator. Okay, so recently they had World Radio Day for all the radio people. This is quite interesting. You're going to love the next slide. So they did like in 60 minutes they wanted to generate 60 ideas of what they can use on radio. Okay, so this is what they came up with, some of it. They said secret sound. This is very nice for you guys in radio. Write it down because you can use it somewhere in your programs if you need some new inserts, because you always need some new inserts. Okay, secret sound. They said, for instance, take a DIY competition, get someone like Bright or whatever, and then you can play some sounds, and people can guess what it is, and they can, of course, win something from Bright or whatever. Play more music, get the kids through the adults, get a giant spinning wheel in the studio, a 72-hour activation at the shopping mall. And that's, of course, when you go on the bike, or you go on the treadmill, or you do something in the shopping mall, because you get a lot of people that might not listen to your station that will go there. Then a campaign making the presenters come across more authentic. That's very important. Authenticity is a big thing now. Fact of the day, today in history. Go to the next slide. Organize a pet promotion day. Set up a blood drive. Do something in studio. For instance, how many balloons can people blow up in a minute? And this is very nice for. This is quite nice for social media. Get a 10-year-old to dress, for instance, the breakfast presenters at the mall, because that's always nice, because you get the children and you can make it very, very entertaining. Okay, every day is shoe day. Give men or women their Cinderella moment, and if the shoe fits, they win it. That's quite nice. It's also a nice thing for digital. Then another thing that, the two things that I added is, you know, sometimes we think we need to come up the whole time with new things. We need to create new things. But one thing that we can actually look at is curate content. The top 5 places to go in Cape Town, the top 5 restaurants, the top 5 places to take your children, the top 5 this, the top 5 that. Anyway, people love it. They love doing this because you actually save them time. Okay, so that you can do with products, with artists, with designers, with websites. And the other thing is, if you had a good insert 2 years ago, and really made a lot of impact, you can always reuse it. You can repackage it to delve into your archives. Okay, so we actually recently went to the streets. So this is some idea of what you can do quickly. We went into the streets in Parow. When last have you been in Parow? Voortrekker Road. Okay, so you know, the nightlife is there. Okay, so what we did is we actually wanted to use this for Easter, but we are going to use it for another campaign. And what we asked them is, who's Jesus? We asked them, who's Jesus? And of course, there's a lot of prostitutes that's in the Voortrekker Road. And what touched me the most is a number of them are actually in that lifestyle. Okay, so I'm going to show this to you.
So we went into the streets of Parow to ask you the question, who is Jesus? Where is he?
Who is Jesus? He's the Son of God.
That's the guy, Jesus, with the long hair. Jesus is God. Jesus is God. Jesus is God.
What kind of one?
Nah, he's an elephant.
He's a Savior. No, he's my life. He's my fault. He's everything to me. He's me.
Jesus is God. I think Jesus is a prophet.
It's like my father.
It's my Lord.
He's looking after me every time.
Christianity and Islam are very much similar. For me, it's only spiritual.
Jesus is also for us an important prophet.
You believe in this, I believe in this. It's not exist. Who is Jesus?
Yeah.
God walks with me. He's gonna be there for me. So when I pray to God, and He sees my tears, He sees my sadness, He sees my struggle. God make a way. Say
Morning.
Joy.
I think it's so important to actually be real and to touch people and to show them where they need it. That last one is also a lady of the night, and I think she actually went to a client, just after we shot that. So we need to help those people. Yes, see. Okay. Let's quickly. Are you guys getting tired? Are we almost done? Are you still enjoying it? Okay, wonderful. I've actually went back into the archives to go and check some of the stories that impacted me quite a lot. Some of the projects that we did that was talked about, that stood out, that people, because it really changed lives. Okay, one of them, I want to show you this one. Okay, so I always wanted to build a house for people, and that is where a daughter slept. A teenager daughter, but like it's very small, like a very, very small. Okay, so we came there and we always surprised them with shopping, like, what do you call it now, groceries. And I told her, oh, we are giving you a voucher for groceries. She was like, thank you, and whatever. And when I told her that we are going to build her daughter a room to the Wendy house, she was crying so much there. Because to her, that was the biggest thing that she asked God to change. But we didn't know it. We just actually went to see it and we thought, okay, but listen, Penny Fisher's can actually build this. So this was quite amazing because what it did is it actually stirred people to also start to give and to look and to see something so small made such a big difference for her. So this was very, very special. And I think that's so important because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's the thing that through all my years in radio, that's the thing that I've came to the conclusion. People would actually come aboard, whatever project you are doing, if they see that you really care. This past weekend, I actually went to do a talk in Noordwest. I don't even know what it is in English. And the roads are so bad. Honestly, at one stage, you drive, but you drive next to the road because there's so many potholes, like freaking big potholes there. So people are driving like that or whatever. But that's like normal to them. That's like seriously normal. I couldn't believe it. It's like, this is the craziest thing ever. But anyway, it's like tar. It's supposed to be a tar road, but they are driving to the like gravel next to them. And I thought, you know what? If I had a church there, or if I had a thing that I want people to actually talk about, you know what I would have done? I would have, gotten money together to fix that road, even if it's part of that road, because it's going to improve everyone's lives. It's going to be a practical thing in the community. It's going to make people's lives better. And people are going to come to whatever church, organization, whatever you have. They're going to support you because you support the community. So we need to think about how are we making the world a better place? What are we doing that people actually find, yes, like this is helping me? If there's an area that doesn't have water, are we taking water there? Or are we just saying Jesus is the living water? We need to think and do something. Like this is one of the examples we heard about. It was very, very dry in certain areas, Williston and all that area. And there was a lady that actually came to say that it broke her heart. She was in that area, and she went into a farmer's home, and he started crying because he said, "Listen to my sheep. There's no food, and they didn't even have milk to put into the coffee." He said it broke our heart, and so we said, "Listen, let's do this." We made SOS 100 to give them. They bought like stuff for the animals. We actually raised almost like 4 million rand. In the 1 week, something like that. When we do a pledge, we don't get to that. But when we did this, it was extremely successful. Carte Blanche actually came to cover the story as well. People don't care how much you know until they see that you actually care. Okay, so this one, what happened here is we actually got a message from a mom that said a child wants to go to matric for a while, but they can't afford it. And she's drawing the pictures of the dress, but she as a mom, she can't afford it. And we started the Matric for a While project. So exactly the same thing, people can nominate, someone. This one was actually part of the project of ACES. So it actually started out as just tell us if you see people that are hungry. So people nominated. And this daughter actually is a matric. She nominated the mom. She said the mom would never tell anyone that they are sometimes struggling, and she would always give her food for them. But we found out that she's a matric, and we realized, but we can actually surprise her with the matric for a while. Okay, so what happened that morning is I went out, and then the people from the studio phoned us. And I said to the mom, okay, so we are here, we are going to give you, and we gave her the groceries. And she was like, oh, thank you, like very polite and whatever. And I said, oh, but there's another thing. Where's your daughter? So the daughter came and I said, you know what? we are going to give you the matric farewell of your dreams. And the mom started crying. Oh, you're not getting to again. And the mom started crying, but the mom cried like ugly cry. And I was like, oh, okay, I wonder what actually now happened. And when we finished, crossed over back to the studio, she said, you know what happened? It was a Tuesday. That previous weekend, her mom went everywhere to find money, to get a loan, to buy a matric dress and to pay for the matric farewell. But she couldn't get a loan. So she went into the bathroom and she prayed and she said to God, okay, so I'm asking you to just do a miracle. And when she came out of the bathroom, the daughter stood there and the daughter said, you know what, maybe God is going to come through once, maybe just suddenly. And the Tuesday, we didn't know that before. So that was the Tuesday morning. So that's actually why I'm saying it's so important to trust the Holy Spirit to guide us. Because a lot of the time, I can tell you hundreds of this kind of stories. That's why I'm doing radio. I never really wanted to be a radio presenter. But this made me do radio because I could see the immediacy of how you can change people's lives. We need to ask the Holy Spirit to guide us because He's guiding us through this kind of stuff. So that people can see Him. Okay, I'm coming to the end. Okay, so I just want to see if there's anything that I missed out. I'm going to tell you this story. This is my hero. Huh? He's my hero.
He's quite fast, right?
Yeah, he is. Okay, so for you that don't like running, I'm going to share this story with you in closing. On the 12th of October 2019, there was history that was made in Vienna. But this guy's name is Eloy. Okay, so he grew up in Kenya. In Kenya, he had a single mom. And his father died when he was very young, so it was quite a big thing in their culture. If you don't have a father, then you have to work extra hard to be seen as a man. So he started running. Every day he ran to school, but he started to train when he became a teenager. And he thought, but listen, I'm actually quite a good runner. Okay, so he broke the world record. You must correct me if I'm wrong, because you probably know the whole story. He broke the world record, but then a group of people came and said, we want to see if it's going to be possible for a man to run a marathon under 2 hours. That means, on average, it would have been 2 minutes and 50 seconds per kilo. Okay, that is extremely fast. That's like sprinting the whole weekend time. Okay, so there was a lot of training that went, a lot of stuff that went into it. So the team came together. It was a very big team. They looked at, for instance, a format of how you would run with the least resistance. Where the wind would be least. They initially thought it would be like when the birds fly, but they saw no, it must be a different formation for the least resistance. So the runners trained, and then at a certain stage they would go off and new ones would come. So in this marathon, they probably had like 7 or 9 teams. They go out and then they come in. They looked at his diet. How much water, how much this, how much that, what should he eat, when should he eat stuff. They had to find this perfect place where he could run that was not too high, not too low, not a specific kind of thing of how he should run. They called it the 1 hour 59 minutes project. 1:59 project. And you know what was amazing is when he started running, they had a car that went in front that had laser lights that shone on the ground. So the runners knew exactly where they were supposed to run. And when they went out, the new ones came in, but they knew exactly where they were supposed to run. Okay, so I'm going to show you a small video, but the thing is, what I want you to remember is that we are like this team. Even though we might be of different organizations, we actually have one goal. And that goal is to know God and to make God known. Because we are created to create, to make the Creator known. And that light that you will see now is actually the Word of God. That's directing us, that's guiding us. It's the Holy Spirit that's inside of us, that's telling us, this is what you should do for a time such as this. Even though it doesn't make sense, just be obedient. Because at the end of the day, you're going to look back and say, oh my word, look what the Lord has done. So I want you to quickly look at this. And I like the way that he speaks about discipline. Because to us, it's going to be extremely important to have discipline. And not just make one good thing and then finish. We have to have discipline. To every single day wake up and ask, Father, what is it that you want me and my team to do for today? Okay, so look at this. Where's the sound now? Oh, wait. You have to, this is the most important video. Video to start. Okay, while he's sorting this out, is there any questions, anything that you want to add before we look at the video? Yes?
Got a question with a remark. We speak about media, creating content, and we speak of it as if it's something outside of ourselves. But we should always remember that the media that we create is an extension of ourselves.
Yeah.
And I have the privilege of knowing you a little bit, and I also follow you on social media. So I can say to the people who don't know you that the stuff that you post on social media is an extension of who you are and who God called you to be. And I think that's the most important thing for all of us, is to be who God called us to be, because then the content we create will be an extension of our calling and of our true identity in Christ. So I think that is the most important thing, rather than trying to be Benescke 2.0 or anybody else. So I think that that's very important that we always remember that we are, ultimately, we are the medium. And whatever we create is just an extension of that.
That's brilliant. I think it's so important. The other day I read an article about people that block in their creativity. What would they suggest you do, kind of thing. And they said, what's the best thing that can actually help is when you are, for instance, a video person, to look at stills. If you are someone that's in print media, blogging, to actually take a break from that and go to video. If you are, to change it around. Because when you start to experiment with different mediums, you might actually find that there's need to know what we need to know and what we need to do.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's not about us, not, like seriously, the whole run through. I don't know how many times you actually looked at the people around, not really, that you actually focused on him, right? Yes. And even at the end, no one would actually know, oh, you were one of the runners, wasn't it? You were one of the runners. No one actually knew that. No. But they tried exactly the same as him, kind of thing, to stay in that place. And that's the thing what we need to know, is we must always give God the glory. We must always reflect the glory back to Him, no matter what happens. No matter if you create something that goes viral or whatever, that's great, congratulations. But it must always reflect back to God. Because someone actually said to me last week, he said, you know what, he thought about that scripture that said God is close to the humble and He resists the proud. So it's not just like he's saying, I'm going to do whatever, He's actually resisting the proud. And we should really always look at how we can give God the glory and reflect His glory back to Him. So that's also very important. Yes?
Yeah, you know what stands out? The whole thing, the content, is that God is looking for that one person.
Yes.
And you have this bunch of guys for that one person.
Oh, wow.
For that one person.
Oh, that's so good, eh?
Yeah, so that stands out for me. And we, especially, I don't call myself a presenter, broadcasters, we're just looking for one listener. We're speaking to one person.
No.
That's the one person we're looking for.
And we should never forget that.
And you said, Veronica, we have to study. I mean, here, for serving, he had a different fit. And they have to design shoes for him so that they can be comfortable. So we need to know all these things to the people that we're speaking with, not to, because most of the time we speak to.
Instead of with.
Instead of with. So the standout is a lot of people, but for that one person.
Oh, that's so good. Listen, we actually have to wrap up here, Nick. Finish up. I just want to, can I just pray before we go? Father, thank you so much for this opportunity that we can gather together as creatives. And Father, we want to give you the honor and the glory because you are the creator. Thank you for the talents that you've given us to create. And Father, I want to ask you to come and visit us with even greater creative ideas than we've ever thought about. Help us to think outside of the box. Help us to give you the freedom to actually guide us in the direction, even if it's an uncharted territory. And help us to be obedient. Father, I pray if there's anything in our hearts that is not pleasing you, if we've been disobedient because we don't want to offend, or whatever it might be, Father, then I ask you that you would forgive us. And I ask you that you would just let your Holy Spirit come down on every single person that's sitting here and give us that fresh new ideas so that we can go and create, so that the creator can be made known. I ask you in Jesus' name. Amen.
I think we can really thank Benescke for sharing with us her life, her love, her passion, her truth, everything she shared with us, and just from that And then just to mention, this is China time for anyone who's just booked for the day conference. But if you are leaving today, if you could leave your lanyard back at the registration place,